Battalion 3111, Battalion 3112, Quint 90, Engine 101, Engine 3168, Engine 9, outside fire, Delta response at the Salvation Army parking lot, 24201, Orange Avenue, RVC Command 5, RVC TAC 7.
We're preparing for a hot day for any type of fires on walking around headquarters, and the first engines were dispatched to a vehicle fire on the 215 freeway when they saw a large column building from what appeared to be Harville and I want to say it was Orange Street. They called it in, and that ensued the events that transpired for the next almost 24 hours.
And when my unit got on scene, they came up with a report stating that it was not a box of clothes on fire, but an entire yard of boxes of clothes on fire with extension into a very large warehouse.
Well involved with extension into a large single-story commercial structure. I'll take command. I do have a water supply. So let's go ahead and start a second alarm.
You could kind of hear in his voice that this was a lot bigger than a box of clothes on fire, so I started looking at my other incidents, looking at my other medicals in the city, seeing like, okay, how fast can I get these other ones off of these calls?
Once I came on scene, I established an ICP on the would be the southeast corner of the Salvation Army compound. They have several buildings throughout that entire facility, and it was just building rapidly with the normal winds that build out of in the afternoon in Paris, and with the heat from the day, it was going to be very hard for us to get in front of that.
We do. We remember that day very specifically. We're very close in proximity to the Salvation fire, so immediately when we saw the smoke, we knew that our assistance might be needed. We immediately got our runners together. We got our hydration together, our ice, our foam, anything that was going to be requested of us, and we're ready to take it out to the incident.
And it was at that point in time that the ember cast started a vegetation fire. So I developed a vegetation branch and assigned that to a third BC that was responding, let him handle that aspect of it. The fire then started encroaching and the smoke column started laying over the 215 freeway as well as the Metrolink rail right across the way. And I had to shut down the railroad transportation as well as the 215 corridor at one point in time.
It ended up just going to greater alarms. So once we hit that fourth alarm, we just started calling it a greater alarm. And then the odd thing about the Salvation Army, where it sits, all the vegetation area around of it is state land. And this fire ended up jumping, because it was kind of a windy day, into the state land. So then I had the Salvation incident, which was my 5-alarm structure fire. And then I also had a state vegetation fire that I had to now get an entire vegetation response, including aircraft on.
The challenge with the vegetation response was that multiple spot fires, figure out what the threat from the vegetation fires were going to be, and how much equipment I could spare from the structure fire to take on the vegetation fire. So with that, we started a bulldozer to put a fire line across the head of the fire, and then I had multiple Type 3 engines out of Paris take on the vegetation fire while we were still fighting the structure fire. And traditional firefighting tactics give us the ability to put truck companies on the roof to open up an area in the roof to ventilate the fire so it doesn't spread throughout the structure so we can release some of the heat.
Immediately made contact with Quint 97, who was working off in a distance. I could see that they had heavy fire conditions. They actually had a few explosions around them. When we got up there, I immediately established with the crew that we were gonna take our time. We were gonna be extremely careful. What I saw up there on that up on top of that roof was a wildland fire. And what I mean by that, the fire was sheeting across the roof already. Chief Roberts, who, thank God, was below us and paying attention to the operation, he came up on the radio and he advised me to go ahead retreat back to our area and get off the roof. Before we came all the way down, I had turned around and looked, and what we were standing on was fully involved, fire through the roof. So we were extremely disappointed that we weren't able to do what we wanted to do. However, we were safe, nobody was injured or killed, and then we went right into water tower operations.
What was not known was how much loading was within the 100,000 square foot building itself. And that loading created, and unsprinklered, it created a huge heat, basically an oven inside the structure, and we were unable to get in front of the progression of the fire. When we go through training as battalion chiefs, they put us through different courses and different classes. And some of those classes, they give us an incident simulator, and they have us try and manage that incident. They're all designed for you to never be able to get in front of the fire, and that the fire will continually progress. And I had that same feeling when I was commanding that incident, that the fire was progressing and there was nothing I could do to get in front of it until I had enough resources at scene. And on any large incident like that, you're looking at some of your major drawbacks is water supply and what we call reflex time for resources coming in. Once we had the 7th alarm show up, we were now resource sufficient. Although we were defensive, we were still offensive on multiple exposures, and we were able to have a good confidence within 2 hours, a good confidence that we weren't going to lose any more structures, and that we were going to be able to contain the fire to the building of origin. Having the cooperative agreement gives us the ability to have the full-fledged of the state assets as well as the county assets and work in cooperation. So when the vegetation fire lit off, I was able to have a bulldozer from the state of California come and cut a line across the field that the fire was building in. I had the Type 3s that are not normally staffed within Riverside County on the Riverside County side, but on the state side, those were there immediately and able to pick up the vegetation fire from spreading into multiple buildings. I had the use of the helicopter, one as an aerial platform to be able to tell me what was going on with the fire itself, where the smoke column was laying down to, and the helicopter was able to pick up a few of the spots that had launched into the field adjacent to the building. All wars are lost because of logistics, or won because of logistics. And if I can't get the food, if I can't get the water, if I can't get the rehab, if I can't get any of those things, I only have, in the heat of the day that we had that day, I only have about an hour's worth of work out of them.
When we have significant incidents, the firefighters, they bring what they have on their engine. They bring that type of support. They don't have the time to leave and go back to their station and get their needs. So we are there to provide that for them with anything that could be possibly pulled from the service center. The service center absolutely plays a vital, important role in our department. We provide significant incidents with supplies, with hydration, with foam, with feeding, also picking up equipment when the incident is over. Anything that's actually requested of us is what we're there to do.
Yeah, the conditions that we had up there were, number one, it was an extremely hot day. It was in the middle of the day. I remember before the fire was even dispatched, we were already out and about training, running calls throughout the city of Moreno Valley, and we were already heat saturated.
That breathing support comes, it's able to refill the air bottles that we needed to use. It's able to set up multiple easy ups to get firefighters out of the heat, misting systems to cool people down, and they create an environment for somebody to be able to go in after exercising for an hour straight, to be able to sit down and take a load off for about a half hour, and then have them rehabbed enough to be able to go back to work and start continuing the firefight. Once we had everybody in place, it is almost like a time to take a deep breath to allow them to go to work and handle business. And it didn't matter what agency was involved. These large-scale incidents allow because of the ICS system, it allows anybody to work within that incident and have a specific task that they needed to accomplish. The end result of it was a total loss of 100,000 square foot building. That was the downside. The good side is we saved a 50,000 square foot 2-story commercial building as well as a residential living center, both within 100 feet of the main building. The fire was finally contained almost 24 hours later, just due to the fact of the heavy mop-up. And in fact, we even used a bulldozer during the mop-up within the building to separate all of the stacked goods that they had within the structure.
I've been in the fire service since 1992. I have seen some fire, and I will tell you that I have never seen a fire in size that big as far as a building. And the fire behavior, again, I will say it again, the fire behavior on that roof, it looked like Universal Studios.
Obviously the fire went out, obviously we saved the exposures, and with a fire like that, with no sprinkler system within the structure, I think that we accomplished a large goal by not burning down an entire block of buildings. And I was very proud of the work that the guys did on scene. To their credit, every single person worked tirelessly to try and contain this fire. And that was what I was more proud of than it being the largest structure fire in the history of Riverside County. I was watching chiefs pull hose to help out the guys on the floor. It was an amazing collaborative effort to extinguish this fire and save whatever exposures that were out there. And I am very proud to be a part of Riverside County Fire Department, CAL FIRE.